Confirmation bias plays a large role in how we shape our views. I consciously know I'm biased towards anything related to the original Mass Effect trilogy, but most people lack self-awareness, so their bias functions on a more subconscious level. For that reason alone, certain games are harder to review than others. When someone makes up their mind that something is supposed to be good or bad, you can't tell them anything other than what they believe, regardless if they have experience with said thing that they're judging, especially because society has all but removed the concept of shame. Without any type of conflict, you can never find growth. Thus, we have a large number of human beings arguing over the internet about video games. Enter God of War Ragnarok. Now, some Sony ponies have been out in full force attacking anyone who says this game is anything less than a 10 out of 10 perfection. Probably because their precious PS5 barely has any exclusives to play. I mean, it was funny when I used to say the Xbox had no games during the PS4, Xbox One era, and you guys laughed all those years on the podcast when I used to say that the Wii U barely had any games to play, but now it's not so funny when the shoe's on the other foot. They need this game to be great because their ego can't handle a different opinion.
That boy is good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to say that Ragnarok is not great, but it is a good game. You Xbox fanboys thought I was about to crap on this game. Nah, we not here for all that. I'm just a humble man on the internet here to start what I hope will be a healthy dialogue about Ragnarok. Ragnarok is the sequel to the 2018 reboot of God of War. Kratos is an old man trying to navigate his way through the waters in his latest years, instilling the valuable lessons he's learned over time to his son Atreus. Ragnarok picks up right where the last game left off. If you're wondering if you need to play the last game to follow this one, I would say no, but you definitely will have a better appreciation for things, especially when it comes to the narrative surrounding Atreus. Ragnarok hits the ground running. This game has one of, dare I say, the best opening boss fights that I played in any video game. It especially hits different if you played 2018 and you waited all these years later for that moment to finally manifest. I was going crazy on stream during this moment. I had so much fun because that fight did something I hadn't seen in a boss fight before that I'm not gonna spoil, by the way. I'm just gonna say it felt like peak masculinity, and this was all within the first hour. I said to myself, if this is how the game starts, oh boy, we are in for a treat. Upon completing the game, I will say that it was a treat, but not a king-size Snicker or even a regular size one. It wasn't quite the fun-size chocolate bar, but this game does feel like a half-eaten Snickers. It's still good, but it's disappointing.
Interesting analogy.
Let's start with the positives. Combat is still fun in Ragnarok. It hits that nice middle ground of fun, but just challenging enough for the player. And that's on normal difficulty. If you want to turn things up to the hardest difficulty, I'm told this is one of the hardest games of last year, but it's very satisfying to complete it on that difficulty. This time around, Kratos has access to his axe, Blade of Chaos, and the Spartan Spear, with my favorite weapon being the axe. The weight behind Kratos' swings on that axe is as satisfying as ever. And the icing on the cake is each weapon has several special abilities as well as upgrades and perks that can be attached to said weapon. Now, you could choose the button mash, but mastering the combo system in combination with the parry system allows you to pull off some combos that make you look and feel cool. To help extend those combos are partners in crime. During the game, you'll have access to teammates that assist you in combat. So not only did Kratos' skill tree get deeper, but so did his teammates. One of the surprising elements of this game is this time around you get to play as the boy. Atreus' sections have been a hot topic amongst the community. I've seen a lot of people online say they didn't enjoy controlling him, but I would say I disagree. I didn't enjoy playing Atreus as much as Kratos, but I did find him to be a nice change of pace to shake things up. The Atreus gameplay was only a drag the first time you got to control him because he had no abilities outside of shooting his bow. But by the end of the game, that dude becomes a badass. I've always enjoyed playing ranged characters in MOBAs, so I loved diving back dramatically and shooting my bow. I loved uppercutting enemies and juggling them with bow shots. Atreus' sections genuinely did not bother me, and I welcomed that change of pace. The main thing I didn't enjoy about the combat was sometimes it felt like I was fighting the camera more than the enemy. It doesn't help that they made it harder to quick 180 turn by remapping the controls either. It also felt like they played it a bit too safe with the combat. It was fun, but it didn't feel like that jump from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2. Ragnarok felt like Dead Island 1 to Dead Island Riptide. A lot of the combat animations are pulled directly from 2018 as expected, but it didn't add enough new for me to be blown away. Basically, Ragnarok Ragnarok's combat is still fun, but it didn't have the same impact for me as 2018 did. That lack of impact in what's new makes this game's issues far more glaring. It's easy to forgive Melo on the Knicks when he's giving you 35 a night, but Melo on the Lakers, still good, but his weaknesses become much more obvious when you're not performing at the same level. Ragnarok starts off incredibly strong, but the middle of this game was a complete drag for me. What should have been a story that slowly ramps up over time to its climax is instead mostly just cutscenes that are far too long, copious amounts of puzzles, and a cast of characters that I honestly did not care much about. I mean, Odin was cool, Thor was cool, but everyone else was just kind of filler to me. There's moments where I recall putting my controller down because the cutscenes just kept going like the Energizer Bunny. To add fuel to the frustration, a lot of the game plays like this: battle, puzzle, puzzle, battle, puzzle, 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 then a battle. For me, it was hard to get into my flow state and master the combat, seeing as you're constantly met with these boring puzzles. And I really want to put emphasis on how boring the puzzles are in this game. It's a lot of hit this button, move this gear with your axe, and open this door type of puzzles that add nothing to the game other than slowing down your progression. And add insult to injury, the game allows you no time to figure out the puzzles yourself. Within 10 seconds of discovering a puzzle, Atreus is dropping you a hint. It felt like the game was insulting my intelligence. At least wait a few minutes before you start dropping players hints. And the crazy part is, a lot of my viewers try to say I ragged on this game's uninspiring puzzles because I usually don't like puzzles in my games. And that's true, but I just beat Plague's Tale Requiem. That game is nothing but stealth and puzzles, but the puzzles in Requiem were incredibly fun to solve because they were contextual to the story, and no two puzzles were the same, so it always felt fresh and grand in scale. Hell, Zelda is one of my favorite franchises, and that game ain't nothing but puzzles. When puzzles are done correctly, they are fun. The problem is most games don't do it correctly, but that's beside the point. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on Requiem, I'll leave a link in the description box below. I reviewed that game as well. Check it out after this video. Now let's get back to Ragnarok. Half the puzzles involve Kratos searching for random letters to throw his axe at so he can get some random upgrade. It's boring and it's uninspiring. The weird pacing broke my spirit at one point during my playthrough, to the point where I almost uninstalled this game, and I ain't talking about the good kind. I need a break, yeah. I need a break from this game. In 2 hours, we've watched about 30 minutes of cutscenes, done about 10 puzzles, and played maybe like 10 minutes of gameplay. I've had enough. I'm gonna go walk the dog. It's not a puzzle. I don't want to play this game anymore. Like, this game is really dragging for me. Like I said, this is not even the second best game of the year. And the only people who are really riding for this game are delusional Sony fans, bro. Delusional. So please play Plague's Tale Requiem, chat. Please play it. This game just continues to get worse, I'm not gonna lie. I also ran into this glitch that switches your difficulty setting. The result was I ended up playing 75% of the game on hard unintentionally until someone in my Twitch chat told me to check my settings and see if I got that glitch where the game switches itself from normal to hard. And guess what? I got the glitch where the game switches itself from normal to hard. So I ended up playing the game bugged out half the damn time. I also ran into this bug where I got stuck in an elevator. One area wouldn't load in, and then I got some sound glitches as well where the sound was like cutting out. I mean, the good news is the game is generous on checkpoints, so it wasn't too big of a deal to start over at the checkpoint, but I think it's worth noting that this game did not feel as polished as 2018. Now, if you make it through the middle of the game, oh boy, is the last 3 hours of this game straight heat. The last few hours of this game was truly amazing. The story finally turns up, the boss fights were top tier, and the music was amazing. The final third act of this game was its saving grace. I honestly believe Sony Santa Monica felt like because this was a sequel, they just had to add more. Didn't matter what they added, they just had to add more, but more isn't always better. I think this game would have hit harder for me if the story was shorter and more concise, dial back the puzzles, and focus more on innovating the combat system. Ragnarok does so much unnecessary stuff that sometimes it felt like it forgot to be fun. Does that make it a bad game? No, I was just disappointed. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I would. And because of that, I normally recommend waiting until the price drops, but the PS5 barely has any exclusives at the moment, so I'm just gonna say go ahead and pick it up if you haven't already. I know you need a reason to turn on your PS5 if you haven't gotten this game yet. Just know that this game is fun, yet it's flawed, and that's okay. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please consider hitting the like button, and if you're new here, subscribe and turn on all notifications. My name is the Black Hokage, aka TBH, and to be honest, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Why are you still here?